Biz Communication Show. I'm your host, Bill Lampton. Every week on the Biz Communication Show, hosting a prominent business professional whose communication tips and strategies will help us boost our own business when we take what we have learned from them and apply it professionally. Today, it is a special privilege to host someone that I have known over a period of about 2 decades from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, TAG Goulet. And the TAG stands for, that's an acronym, I guess we could say. Her initials, Therese Antoinette Goulet, most popularly known as TAG. And from her LinkedIn page, here's some of her bio, which has to be only some of it because she's got an extensive bio. She's a film producer whose credits range from shorts to features in a variety of genres, including a Star Trek documentary screened at Paramount Pictures in 2018. With more than 25 years of business and management experience, TAG transitioned to film producing from a career in book publishing. In 1999, with her sister Catherine Goulet, she co-founded Fab Job, and she was a pioneer in ebook publishing. She sold millions of dollars in publications at a time truly when the internet was new and very many people hardly knew what ebooks were, which talks about her creativity. For over a decade, she has served as head nonfiction judge of the Next Generation Indie Book Awards, the world's largest not-for-profit awards program for indie authors and publishers. And if you're not sure what indie is, I looked it up. That's independent, okay. Throughout her career, TAG has overseen marketing and media relations for various organizations. She's a prolific writer and publisher, as I mentioned. Her articles have been published at AOL, CNN, Microsoft's MSN, and Yahoo. And she has been quoted in numerous top-level publications, including Entrepreneur, Fast Company, and many others. So with that background, I know that you are eager to meet TAG Goulet. Hello, TAG.
Hi, Bill. I'm so happy to see you again.
It's wonderful to have you with us on the Biz Communication Show, and the Biz Communication Guy is glad to welcome you. As I mentioned, you established a widely successful international career in publishing. You became an expert in the career industry. You helped thousands of people find what was the right career for them and what steps they should take. And you gave them books to do that in a variety of careers. And then you transitioned now into the movie industry. Tell us, please, how that came about. What prompted you and what steps did you take?
Well, I've been interested in film for literally decades. And where I think it really solidified for me was being interviewed by a magazine, Woman's Day magazine. And it was about finding your dream career. And the last question that they asked both myself and Catherine was, well, what's your dream career? I was working in publishing. I still do work in publishing. I have a quasi publishing film career. And I realized I would love to be a film producer. And it is a natural transition from book publishing, which means finding people who are extremely talented. So in the case of publishing, writers, editors, designers, and creating something wonderful that other people will love. And film production is very similar. You find all these talented people. I sometimes joke I'm the least talented person on the film set, and that's fine with me. I love to find people who want to make wonderful, either educational or entertaining stories for other people.
Are the actors that you find and actresses, are they, you mentioned these are indie productions, are these some who've not made it to major production companies yet?
Well, it's interesting in the indie film industry in that very often the people I'm working with are filmmakers. So they're either the screenwriter or the director. some of them are people who, and how I get involved with this is I will hear about a film that is in what's called the pre-production stage, where they might be looking for a little help, a little funding. And how I will choose the people to get involved with is either they're someone who's this amazing emerging talent. So someone who is dynamo, maybe they haven't struck it big yet, but I have also had the chance to work with some people who have had very successful careers, winning at the Sundance Film Festival, being nominated for Oscars. And it seems like all filmmakers are still, with the exception of those at the very top of the industry, they're still looking to, it's a job for them, and they need to attract people that have money. They need to find an audience for their films. They need to be able to sell it. And so, to answer your question, yes and no. I am looking for people who haven't quite made it, but I also do work with people who have been very successful.
I think one of the things that many moviegoers don't realize is that just because an actor or actress has had a smash hit movie, that doesn't necessarily guarantee an ongoing career. The classic case to me, and I don't know how many people today would be familiar with Orson Welles, but Orson Welles, of course, filmed Citizen Kane when I think he was in his mid 20s.
Mhm.
And he was in many other magnificent movies. I remember The Third Man was one of my favorite Orson Welles movies. And yet, late in his career, I remember him being on some talk show. I think maybe it was Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. And Johnny Carson said something like, "How's your career going these days?" And Orson said, "Not very well. The phone isn't ringing." And so, in a sense, it's like many businesses. You don't have a good year, and then that makes the rest of it for you. So you're dealing with people, you say, who have uh, been at Sundance or had Oscar nominations, but that's a good week. That's a good month. That's a good year. 5 years later, what do you do? Am I right on that?
You are absolutely correct, Bill. And I work with a number of filmmakers in the United Kingdom as well. And it's fascinating there that people who have worked on, we'll hear shows that we're familiar with, like Game of Thrones, or they worked on the Star Wars movies. They are still willing to work on lower budget independent films because, unless they're at the, very peak of their popularity, and Orson Welles being a great example, you have these immensely talented people who they still have to beat the bushes a little bit to continue to find work. So I guess in a way it is very much like any other kind of business. We have to keep working at getting our products out there, getting known by the public. And 5 years goes by, it's what have you worked on lately? Very, very good analogy. And I think Orson Welles is a perfect example of that, and still experienced today by many great talents.
In the sports world, I'm a very avid golfer. I have been since I was 13 years old. I follow tournament golf, and there are times that a guy might win one tournament, and that's these days that's $1 million. But then who knows? They may fade out, and 5 years from now they'll be trying to qualify for the PGA Tour again. So in any profession, I guess we could say, and the movie profession is no exception. If you get to the top, don't think you'll automatically stay there. It takes continued perseverance, developing your skills, and this is a good lesson for those of us in business communication. Uh,
Mhm.
because you can do it well now doesn't mean you will excel unless you keep developing those skills.
Right. And I think one of the challenges with the society we're in now is people really have a limited attention span. It's, I'll look at this today, but something else will have my attention tomorrow. Uh, Someone can be on the cover of a newspaper or a magazine, and a month later, people have forgotten. So it is very much being out there, putting yourself forward, doing things to continue to get attention from the media or from the buying public. Yeah.
Okay, when I see movie credits, and I've seen a few hundred of them by now, when I see movie credits and I see directed by, I know what the director does. I had the privilege in college of being involved in dramatics, loved those opportunities, had a magnificent director who became truly legendary at that small college in Mississippi. So I know what a director does. But many times when I see producer, I'm not really sure. How could you define for us what a producer does for the movie?
The producer is the one who's supposed to make it happen. So you find the people who are talents, the director, the actor, as we mentioned, and bring it all together. But you'll probably notice when you look at film credits, there's not just one producer normally. Very often you'll see producer, producer, co-producer, executive producer, associate producer, assistant producer. Uh, a producer credit can be given for many different things. And even, for example, helping to fund a film can get someone a producer credit. And that, in fact, is one of the things that helped me get started in the first place. Great, I've worked in publishing, I know how to bring teams together, but I don't really know anyone in the film industry. Getting involved initially by making contributions to a couple of indie films that were advertised places like Indiegogo or Kickstarter, creative people looking for some funds. Very often when you see the producer credit, you'll note they've helped either make a contribution themselves or they've helped drum up sales for the film. They make it happen in one way or another.
Very clear. Appreciate that. Tag as the business communication show guest. I believe you can help us understand what a business can do in the way of telling its story. And that, of course, is what film is all about, is telling its story. I'm reading more and more now about the businesses that succeed are those that tell their story clearly, compellingly, so that they're not having to do a hard sell. People are drawn to them.
Right.
Give us some tips, please, on, and we can talk about using video or film or whatever, how you would advise a business. Suppose a business called you in as a consultant and said, we need to tell our story effectively. What would you advise them?
You know, if you'd been asking me this question a couple of decades ago, I would say, well, make a corporate video. And I remember I did work on some corporate videos where you show scenes of the manufacturing plant. You show scenes of the office. You show, and in fact, The Office, the television series, if you've ever seen that, that's a great example of showing the various facilities that are available. And I remember we work on a film, a video, corporate video, put it together and would show it at various events. I think times have changed though, in that what best works for many companies is producing very short videos, a series of videos, things that can be shared on social media, such as Instagram or Facebook. There's always the desire that, oh, hey, you know, if we create something very clever, even funny, it can go viral. And there's a great example of this is a company that sells men's shaving gear. They became extremely popular from 1-minute videos, just telling their story. And it's, again, that short attention span that many people have. It's a great way to reach them, just little snippets of your business at a time.
I agree with that fully because I know that when video first became popular and also when it became cost effective, when it first became accessible, it was much more expensive than it is now. And I'm talking about an independent person like myself producing videos such as we're doing now, very little cost involved. But when we first got the opportunity to do that, as you said, people were producing very long videos.
Mhm.
But I think now that the you call it snippets, to me, a maximum length now of an informational, semi-promotional video in the 3 to 5 to maximum 7 minute
Mhm.
span, because people are not going to watch much more than that. And you and I are talking now for 20 minutes. If we tried a 45-minute interview, a lot of people would leave us because we just don't have that durability that we once did as viewers. For one thing, it's not novel anymore. When video was brand new, gosh, this may be hard to believe, but I remember many years ago when I bought our first television set for our family. I watched the commercials. I don't do that anymore, but
Mhm.
it was new. It was novel.
Yeah. And I think actually, this is a great example. Your show, I think a reason that people can watch something longer is because they're getting helpful advice, helpful information. I think that if we were just telling a story of a business, people's attention span will go elsewhere very quickly. But that is another really great idea for what corporations can do is share information about how to do something. If you create a video about something that will engage people beyond the here are we and here's our staff and we're so great, but hey, here is something that will make your life better. Here's how you can achieve whatever the business might have in mind. Something that serves the user will get much more attention for a longer period.
Reminds me of that old saying, "What's in it for me?"
Exactly. Exactly.
Tag time for just one more question. As much as you've gotten involved in video and movie production and even had a couple of walk-on parts yourself, my guess is that you have not lost your respect for the power of the written word.
No, I completely agree, Bill. In fact, movies, it starts with the written word and the script that's prepared. That can very often make the difference between something that is a huge success or even with big names, stars, or a great topic that goes nowhere. And again, social media is not just a medium for the photographs and the videos, but the written word still is important to people. I think as long as we're humans, we know people that will want to pick up a paperback book just for that entertainment. I don't ever see the written word disappearing.
Yes, very well stated. Tag, this is fantastic, and it's also practical. You've given us some wonderful insights into the movie production business, and also you've helped us with some specific tips about our own business. I know there are those who will want to contact you, so please give us your contact information.
I can be reached through, I can give my email address, TAGGOULET, tag Goulet, one word, at gmail.com. And I'm on the social media platforms as well. I have Facebook, Instagram, on IMDb, the movie place. So I can be reached lots of different ways. And I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to connect.
I know that my, viewers and listeners, those on podcast and those who are viewing, are very grateful that you've been with us. And since you've given your contact information, I'll give mine, Bill Lampton, the Biz Communication Guy. So logically, my website is Biz Communication, that's B-I-Z, bizcommunicationguy.com. Invite you to visit my website, review my services for corporations and leaders. Give me a call and let's discuss your communication problems and challenges and how I can help you solve them. Tag, any closing thoughts?
I think one of the things that I've learned from this whole experience adding film production to the publishing is no matter how old one gets, you can still go after your dreams. And I know that we're talking to a lot of business people here. I think that includes wherever you are, if you've got a dream, make it happen.
That is an incredible note to close on, because if you keep saying maybe someday, I believe it was Agmandino, one of my favorite authors, who said he looked on a calendar and he never saw a someday on the calendar. If you got a dream, go after it now. And
Yeah.
you have identified your dreams and reached them so well and helped thousands of people doing it. Thank you so much for being with us, Tag.
Oh, thank you so much, Bill. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
And thanks to all of you who've been with us for this edition of the Biz Communication Show. Be with us again next week when we will bring you a top-notch professional who will give communication insights that will benefit all of us tremendously, as Tag Goulet has done. Talk with you next week on the Biz Communication Show. I'm Bill Lampton.